Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc, Episode 41, Luffy's Best, Nami's Courage, and the Straw Hat. Episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happens within this episode. So the episode begins basically where the last one left off. Nami has arrived. She says she's there to kill Arlong. Arlong agrees with me in the last episode and basically just laughs her off, kind of saying, like, as if. And apparently reveals that she has actually tried to kill him many times over the last few years. Assassination attempts, sneak attacks, poisonings, etc., etc. Basically, every way possible. She has tried to kill him. She's failed. She can't kill him. But you know what? He's generous and he decides that he's going to make her an offer. Basically, he wants her as their surveyor and one of the leaders of his crew forever. But he's going to kill Zoro and Sanji and Luffy because they caused him so much trouble. But you know what? If she willingly agrees to rejoin his crew, he'll spare Kokoyashi villagers. All of them that are there. And she struggles with the choice a bit. However, ultimately, she does decide that she's done with the Arlong pirates. She turns to the rest of the villagers and basically says that she's sorry and asks them if they're going to die with her today. And this, of course, is when they all agree that that's what they're going to do, and then a spout of water comes up because Luffy finally spits out the last of the water and manages to regain consciousness, and the first thing he does notice is that Genzo does not have his pinwheel on, which is upsetting because it was pretty cool, at least according to Luffy, and this, of course, is seen by everyone. Usopp also returns and reveals that he defeated Chu, which also aggravates Arlong, who then, because of the spout of water, decides he's going to go and kill Luffy. Sanji goes into the water again so that he can break the concrete around Luffy's feet. Zoro stops Arlong. Usopp decides he wants to help and tries to distract Arlong with his rubber band of doom. It fails on Arlong. However, Hachi, who got up to help Arlong, is taken in by the ploy and does stand there with his eyes closed, ready to get hit by a rubber band. And then when he wakes up, he decides to then, once he realizes that it was all a trick anyways, he gets upset, decides he's going to go after Sanji, goes into the water. However, while he was staying still, his wounds were closed, but once he goes into the water and then starts trying to punch at Sanji in a mimic of Luffy's Gatling, um, he he fails. All of his wounds open. He ends up kind of floating off, um, unconscious. Sanji, who is scared about Nojiko, who put herself between Hachi and him, gets frustrated, decides to use that frustration to break the concrete on Luffy's ankles. Luffy's body then basically rockets up into the air, rejoining his head, which is above water. And as he's flying up, he decides he has to get over to Arlong, so he grabs onto the very seriously injured Zoro and swaps their places, sending Zoro flying to who knows where. And then he arrives and starts with a barrage of attacks on Arlong, which do send him flying through the wall into the building, but ultimately don't do too much damage. And then we kind of get a bit of the, I don't know what to call it, but, the slow plot where they basically have a conversation. Luffy isn't really taking it seriously yet, and everyone else is kind of flabbergasted by Luffy's casualness. And Arlong gets frustrated and angry about not being taken seriously, and they gear up to continue their fight in the next episode. Which now brings us to the part of the video where we rank the episode, and we'll rank on our mostly objective ranking list, followed then by our personal ranking list. So on the mostly objective rank values, we have our single arc main character growth, and this of course is Hachi's attack underwater, which was the Octopus Fritter Frenzy. Um, like I said, it was very similar to Luffy's Gatling because he has the 6 arms, so he was punching with all of them. But of course, those opened his wounds, so the attack never ended up hitting anything. And then we also have our multi-arc main character development, which of course is Luffy getting free and beginning his fight with Arlong. I do want to note that in the last episode, I did miss on the mostly objective rank values the resolved battle, which was worth 2 points each for the resolved battle between Kurobi and Sanji and Usopp and Chu. I was so excited about how fun Usopp's battle was that I completely forgot about that. Of course, it doesn't change the score because the score ultimately was above 10, and 10 is the highest score you can get, but I wanted to correct it in this video and just make note that I had missed those values. Either way, this episode is 4 plus 2, which is 6. So it is a 6 out of 10. And that brings our mostly objective ranking to, in first, the most wicked man of East Blue, Fisherman Pirate Arlong, Luffy stands up, end of a broken promise, Proud Tall Warriors, dramatic battle of Sanji and Usopp, Usopp's death, Luffy yet to land, Luffy drowning, Zoro versus Octopus Hatchan, The Witch of Kokoyashi Village, Arlong's female officer, Survive, the Mother Bellmare and Nami's family, Luffy in trouble, Fishmen versus Luffy Pirates. This episode came in 9th, Luffy's best, Nami's courage and the Straw Hat. Reunited, Usopp tells Nami's true story, and then in last place, the hidden past, female fighter Bellmare. So this episode won its points purely through the comedic moments that occurred in the episode, because ultimately not a lot of plot actually occurred within the episode. And that's something that does frustrate me from time to time, is when you have, it's not like a filler episode. It's not even really a setup episode because everything's already set up. It's just basically between one plot point and the next, they decide to take like this extra long route to get there. For example, um, the Nami thing where he has to then tell her, oh yeah, you've tried to kill me before, and here's your choice. And then she has to stand there and struggle for like a few minutes with the choice. Then she makes her choice, but then, Luffy's awake. So then they're gonna fight a bit. Arlong's going to dominate. He then stands there with like Zoro in his hands and is all like, Zoro, oh, what are these bandages? You know, are you like, did you fall down and hurt yourself? Did you get a little boo-boo? And then he like pulls it off and like even he's shocked, like, oh my God, this is a horrible injury. And we just spend a lot of time kind of on these very slow moments of like maybe exposition, but it's not really exposition because it's things like we already kind of know. So it'd be kind of just dialogue. It's dialogue between the fights, but not necessarily dialogue that adds much, in my opinion. Like, I feel like you could also skip the dialogue and go straight into the action. And I guess for pacing purposes, maybe they don't want you to be like super excited all the time, which when you're like marathoning, fair. But like, if I waited an entire week from the excitement of the end of the last episode, and then this episode was pretty much just people standing around and talking for a while, I would be a little bit kind of no, not kind of. I would be a little bit upset about it. And I kind of was. Because I'm like, I'd wait a week and then all I get is people talking, and then Luffy joins the fight, but then he's not even taking it seriously yet. And it's like you'd think after nearly dying, you would maybe be a little bit more focused in on the fight. But I mean, that's Luffy, and we love Luffy. So it didn't give me any sort of excitement when watching it. I checked as I was watching it, like, because I was streaming it, as I was streaming, I kept checking like the bar of like how far are we into this episode? Is it almost over? Like where are we close to the end yet? And when I do that, I consider the episode to be pretty boring because normally if you're engaged in the episode, you're not going to be checking the little progress bar to see how far you are until the episode ends, typically. But it did have some pretty great funny moments. Zoro getting thrown, Usopp tricking Hachi with the rubber band was great. Even Luffy not taking it seriously had its funny moments, though it was a little bit frustrating too. And that is where all the points I gave this episode really came from. It's those funny moments in between all of the kind of useless talking. And also from the superiority of being right that there was no chance Nami was actually going to ever have any chance against Arlong. I said at the end of last episode, I'll say it again, no chance. And I had, in the last episode, given her grace and being like, maybe a sneak attack, an assassination, a coming from behind. But according to Arlong, she's already tried that and she failed at that too. So really and truly, no chance. Ultimately, I decided to give this episode a 4 out of 10. And that brings the personal rankings so far to Luffy Stands Up, End of a Broken Promise, Proud Tall Warriors, Dramatic Battle of Sanji and Usopp, Luffy Drowning, Zoro vs. Octopus Hatchin, Luffy in Trouble, Fishman vs. Luffy Pirates, The Most Wicked Man of East Blue, Fishman Pirate Arlong, Usopp's Death, Luffy Yet to Land, Reunited, Usopp Tells Nami's True Story, Survive, The Mother Belle Mare and Nami's Family, The Witch of Kokoyashi Village, Arlong's Female Officer, The Hidden Past, Female Fighter Belle Mare, and then this episode so far is in 11th and current last place, Luffy's Best, Nami's Courage, and The Straw Hat. So now we come to our saga ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, we have Romance Dawn Arc in first place at 86.67%. Second is Orangetown Arc, 76%. Third, Beretti Arc, 68.33%, and in last place currently is Syrup Village Arc at 64%. Arlong Park Arc has earned 82 out of a possible 150 points so far. On the personal ranking side, we have Orangetown Arc in first place at 74%. Romance Dawn Arc was second at 66.67%. Third, Beretti Arc, 52.5%. And also in last place on the personal ranking was the Syrup Village Arc, which was 49%. Arlong Park Arc so far has earned 81 points out of a possible 150. Which brings us now to our final segment, which is, of course, our series ranking so far. And this is where we will be ranking each of the sagas against each other. So we have our East Blue Saga on the mostly objective ranking at 25 points out of a possible 80. And then the personal ranking has the East Blue Saga with 14 points out of a possible 80. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc Episode 41, Luffy's Best, Nami's Courage, and the Straw Hat. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.